Right before the break, we had the sentiments of Wakili right there, and perhaps pointing the finger at some of the issues within the Jubilee management, and perhaps alluding to the fact that the party might be held captive. Kevin Osido, talk to us from a governance expert point of view. Might you agree with this particular move, bearing in mind David Murathe, who actually said they're waiting for further instructions on when the NEC meeting should be held because they're to ratify, modify, or reject the recommendations made by the NMC on DP Ruto's ouster. So it seems to be a case of when, not if.
Jesse, from a governance perspective, what is happening in Jubilee Party is very healthy. It is healthy because in fact, in the lifetime of our republic, other than the times when we had Mheshimiwa, the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and our founding father, President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, at a time when, in fact, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta chose to resign from office, we have not had political parties, particularly parties in office, experiencing what Jubilee Party and government is experiencing today. But that, in my view, is only because we have a very strong, grassroots-oriented deputy president, someone who is very ambitious and is looking at himself as being very close to being almost the president of the Republic of Kenya. Now, if you look at that and juxtapose it to what my good friend Omari says, and I'm surprised that he's saying legally speaking and then mentioning Raila Odinga and ODM. And I don't see the linkage between Jubilee Party and Raila Odinga and ODM, other than what Political Parties Act. I think it's the first schedule, Section 8, which says that political parties are free to engage in inter-party relations, which also include D, what it says, national cohesion and national building, which I think is what the President and the former Prime Minister did through the handshake, and that has been encouraged even by the Political Parties Act. But to the extent that ODM and Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister, Mheshimiwa, will affect and attempt to interfere with issues around Jubilee Party and Jubilee government, that I disagree. Yes, of course, on the sides, we can see some semblance of interference from one party, that's ODM, into Jubilee. But I think those are narratives, because we have not heard either the former Prime Minister or the President say that either of the individuals or the parties are actually affecting the operations of Jubilee Party itself. In fact, what we have seen is the President actually indicating that his deputy wants to run away from their initial agreement. And I think that was made very clear by the President at Bomas during one of the meetings of actually the unveiling of the report of the BBI. But when you go back under the institutions that govern how Jubilee Party is supposed to be managed, run, and is supposed to operate, I think that's the point at which we are mentioning certain institutions and names. For example, the National Executive Council. Who sits at the neck of Jubilee? Who are the members of neck of Jubilee? Of course, it has to be the party leader, the deputy party leader. I think the majority of the leadership of the Senate and National Assembly, the whips, sit at that particular level, including certain chairs of the different institutions of Jubilee Party. When you talk about the National Management Committee, NMC, who sits at NMC? I don't think that a merger that occurred in 2013 to form between URP and TNA to form Jubilee, and the founding instruments for which the coalition was formed that carried Jubilee into the 2017 election up to what we have right now, have been washed away. In my view, Jesse, what is happening between Jubilee Party is really between the President and his deputy. And in fact, on the day when Mheshimiwa Ruto will stand up and say, I think I want to be a faithful member of Jubilee, I want to be very faithful and honorable follower of my boss, like he says in political rallies, but continues to miss meetings that have been called by the President, including sometimes even the National Steering Committee, Council meeting. Until that day when he will choose to call to order his lieutenants and say, we are in Jubilee, this issue about UDA, because I don't know whether the political parties, I was trying to look at the section that says any member who begins or attempts to propagate the agenda of another party ceases to be a member of the party for which he is either elected or is a member and is owned therefore to resign. And I've not seen it, but we have good lawyers here who can be able to advise us. So Jubilee really is dealing with an issue which should be held within Jubilee itself, and I think the desire to want to run around and mention other people, because Jubilee can stand and say, ODM, stop meddling in our affairs, and then ODM will say, can you show us? And I think Sifuna has been very clear around this issue to ask Jubilee to show how they are meddling in their issues. So the issues around Jubilee are between the president and his deputy, the party leader, and his deputy.
Okay, so it might be an issue to do with ambition or over-ambition, quote-unquote. Let me bring Agwanda into this particular conversation, even as you add up on that, because there seems to be so many narratives around the issues bedeviling the Jubilee Party. Talk to us about this particular move to wait it out, because we've had some of the party officials mention that it is nothing to do with the position of the deputy president. It's only to do with his position as the deputy party leader. Talk to us about this, because at the end of the day, the head of state holds the cards on how this particular issue will pan out.
I totally agree with my colleague who has just spoken. Jubilee Party and the wrangles within the party are purely Jubilee affairs. These are individuals that have decided they do not want unity among their party, and they do not want certain individual, and more specifically the deputy president. It's just that in reality, they don't know how to kick him out. They also fear that the deputy president has a following, and a huge following that might be a little bit difficult to just do away and to wish away as fast as they may want to think. They started this journey sometimes back when they went to the Senate and removed the leadership of the Senate that were perceived to be allies of the deputy president. They went to the National Assembly and did the same. They removed the allies of the deputy president from the committees and chairing committees. And I remember specifically the Senate, we had Senator Susan Kiika, we had Senator Murkomen, and others that were removed from their positions. Remember, albeit the fact that they were absolutely very able leaders of those committees. Now, when you look at what the Jubilee Party is also doing now, is they've also built on the carelessness of the deputy president. The deputy president knew very well that the upheavals that were coming from the Jubilee Party standpoint against him were purely a Jubilee affairs. But you remember from the beginning, he started shouting the name of the of the former prime minister, that he was meddling into the affairs of Jubilee. And so they built on that while he was still fighting people who were outside. And I will say this, the deputy president, as he continued shouting against the former prime minister to be meddling in the affairs of the Jubilee Party, he was actually playing into the hands of the people who did not want him within the Jubilee Party. But he never realized until it was very, very late when he realized that indeed it was not necessarily the ODM party leader and the former prime minister fighting him within the Jubilee. Because of this, I cannot come from another party and walk into a governing party which is Jubilee, and interfere with the affairs of that party unless they are interested in that very individual that is perceived to be being interfered with from an outside force. And that is ODM. I believe that ODM has not interfered with the Jubilee Party. I believe that the ODM party leader, who is Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, has not gone to Jubilee, and legally he has not crossed over to Jubilee. Their association with the President of the Republic of Kenya, and that is Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, does not amount to intimidating a single individual, even to the position of the Deputy President within the Jubilee Party. That is done by the Jubilee Party themselves. If they want to kick out the person of the deputy party leader, they will do it within the Jubilee Party, and there is no amount of force whatsoever from anywhere out there that can force that to happen unless the president wants it, unless the Jubilee Party themselves want it. And therefore, I've now seen a change of tonation. I've seen a change of words from the deputy president himself, from really ridiculing and calling Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga names continuously in rallies. That has changed a little bit because suddenly he has learned, or he has realized through the hard way, that indeed it is not the outside force, it is the people within his party. The question, that fundamental question that perhaps people will ask themselves is, has the deputy president caused this for himself? Has his words, has his disrespect to the president perhaps caused this? Has his many rallies against the president's wish caused this? Has his relationship with the people in Jubilee, perhaps been a little bit hard on them to a point where basically he was having no relationship at all within the NEC party. Remember that even the NEC itself was, there was some formation in it. There were people who were perceived to be closer to the deputy president, and they were kicked out. Was Jubilee Party preparing itself slowly by slowly, step by step, to kick out the deputy president? And if so, then did he cause it? And I think to a certain extent, I think the deputy president must have caused this. Perhaps one reason why this must have happened as it's happening now is because the president and the deputy president were not in sync all the way from 2017. In fact, when they crossed over as the president and the deputy president, we already started seeing some animosity between the president and the deputy president. But the deputy president did not see it early. He continued going from one place to the other, in every corner of this place, in amount to suggest that he was already campaigning. And I think this was actually mentioned by the president, that a time for politics was not yet. But the deputy president was in a hurry to gather support from every corner of this republic. Ordinarily, in governance standpoint, when you see a deputy president going somewhere, everybody knows that he's going there as a representative of the president. The Kenyan scenario has actually turntables, where the deputy president goes to places and he says, I've come here, not necessarily as a government, but in my own behalf as the deputy president. I'm looking for votes while the president is still in the office. I think that's what started waging this difference. It's what started propelling this animosity, and it's what really started bringing this country and the party into confusion. I want to say this, Jesse. When you see a leading party, a ruling party, having wrangles and issues within its confines, then you might most likely see a leadership in that country not going the way it's supposed to go. When you see a sing together, an organized ruling party, you will definitely have a better governance, from that party and from that presidency. And so I strongly believe that the Jubilee Party should not play into the public gallery where everybody knows there's a confusion. If there's that kind of confusion within the Jubilee Party and they cannot fix it, we as a country are going to experience that kind of confusion in matters of governance, in matters of leadership, in matters of example and jurisprudence, in matters of financial management, in matters of parliamentary systems, whether you like it or not. Now we are having BBI not seeing the light of the day in Parliament. We can see that there's already a problem. And this is emanating from the party wrangles. When you have a party wrangle, you cannot deliver on the promises of the country because you're already having an in-house issue to deal with.
Right,
I think the faster, the better for the president to solve out the wrangles in Jubilee so that they can concentrate on the country.
So the faster, the better. Wakili, let me bring you into this conversation. Do you believe that Jubilee has been privatized in one way or the other? But even as we talk about that, tell us about the affiliation of the Deputy President with the UDA party. We well know it was formerly the Party of Development and Reform, later changed in accordance to the Political Parties Act. But it seems this is where the rain started hitting DP Ruto and his ilk.
Thank you, Jesse, very well. The two issues, I'll put them together, combined in this manner, that when you look at political parties, we look at the political parties from two spheres. Before the coming of multi-party democracy, there was KANU. KANU was Baba and Mama. The father of the current president, Jomo I, formed government in 1963, and he left the stage in 1978 with similar problems that William Ruto and his son, President, His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta, they are facing. When you look at that formation, President Moi took over and ran up to the year 2002 under KANU. When we brought in multi-party democracy, and this is the dynamics that everybody seems to be not seeing, under the multi-party democracy, no party wins power twice. President Kibaki had to leave KANU, form DP, a party called Democratic Party. It is not that party that took him to power. In 2002, a monster hybrid mongrel called NAC was formed, took Kibaki to power. Come 2007, Kibaki never won power through that mongrel called NAC. He won power through PNU. Come 2013, the person who was supposed to be the second in command is the current Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. He carried the incumbency. He had his own party called ODM. He lost. 2013, Uhuru and Ruto contested through a Jubilee Alliance party. 2017, they killed it, formed another one called Jubilee Party. 2022, William Ruto, a very good student of how do you use a political party, get power, dump it, and move away, has jumped to UDA. I will also tell you, Jesse, and everybody, that UDA will not be the party William Ruto will use to contest in 2022. The party that William Ruto will use will be formed around March or April next year. Raila Odinga has consistently retained ODM. And from the multi-party democracy, a party does not survive 5 years plus 1 day. It must be killed, another one created for the sole purpose of grabbing power. So in my own perspective, and I believe those ones who are advising Raila Odinga should tell him that he should abandon also ODM, create a new political party for the sole purpose of capturing power in 2022. Yes, let me also bring this notion that Kenyans are also not saying. What is the role of COVID in this political dispensation? We know COVID as a medical question. We have seen COVID as an economic question. How is COVID a constant within the political realignments, within the elimination process of the people who are likely to make an impact in elections? So we are also going to factor in COVID, that for the next 1 year and a half, COVID is a constant that is going to change the political landscape tremendously without anybody having control of what COVID is going to do. Lastly, Jesse, let me also bring this question. Is Jubilee Party a party for the purpose of August 2022? It is not. The parties that are going to play key roles will are either there or they'll be formed before that time.
Okay, Wakili with interesting sentiments there. Osido, I'll give you a chance to reply to some of the questions raised, but he alluded to the fact that political parties are simply special purpose vehicles meant to achieve a specific ambition of perhaps an individual who might own that particular party or lead the particular party. Talk to us about ideologies, perhaps, behind the formation of political parties as we put this matter to rest.
Jesse, I liked how Wakili began, but I'm confused and utterly surprised at his ending, because he began from an exegesis of giving us our growth as a country and as a people through political parties. And I liked where he got us, which was pre-single party state. But I want to lift it over to pre-2010 constitution and post-2010 constitution, because those are two different things. Now, for the interest of the citizens, and I liked what my good friend in Kisumu, Michael, said, because he said when you have a party which has formed government wrangling within itself, you have the citizens agonizing. Because right now, Big Four is not working. We're spending too much time talking about who is attending which function, who is putting on what kind of color of shoes, and as opposed to actually looking at state of healthcare in this country, because it is terrible. And if we were to put side to side, juxtapose politics and COVID-19, as Wakili says, then it is incumbent upon the government of the day to deliver its citizens to safety. And that is not what we are seeing. To an extent where the CS can say, for health can stand and tell counties, we have done our part, do your parts, yet resources are still being held at national government. I think it's something that requires serious conversation.
Okay.
In my view, no party in this country has come up to be very concise and precise about an ideology. Whether it is ODM, of course ODM has told us they are social justice driven. I've been praying for a day when ODM will be in power, so that then we begin to see how issues around labor laws are being dealt with in this country, employment creation for young people are being dealt with in this country, issues about climate change, among several others. You talk about Jubilee Party, the party that we are currently discussing, or rather talking about, but the question is, what is their ideology? Because there are jurisdictions all over the world for which when you visit and you ask what is your ideology, for example in the UK, or in the US, or even closer home in South Africa, or CCM, we are talking about the late President Magufuli, parties that can be able to stand and actually describe what they stand for and how they are championing those particular ideologies. In Kenya, as you rightfully said, they are purely vehicles of convenience.
All right.
Purpose, what did you call it?
Special purpose vehicles.
Special purpose vehicles to get people into somewhere. And that is why Wakili says the moment you get what you want from ODM, dump it. But then the question is precedence, democratization, and institutionalization of political parties. If we are going to be forming them and dropping them, if we are going to be picking them and dropping them, how are we going to democratize these political parties, ensure that the members, people who register to be members of these political parties and actually invest in them, because members of parties pay certain resources to be members of those parties. If we are going to be dumping them, are we saying that we are going to be dumping the members and then we move on and pick in new members? How are we going to give strength and life to things like Political Parties Act that require that when you're forming up a political party, you must have at least 1,000 members across all the, at least half of the counties, which is 24, so 24,000 members. If we are going to be forming them and dropping them, what are we telling people, my good friend Wakili? Because I think that really is dampening aspirations of many people who then want to form political parties, join political parties, and even run for office through political parties.
Okay.
Lastly, I think we also need to talk about institutionalization of institutions within political parties. How much power, for example, do members of Jubilee have against decisions that have been made by NEC, for example, or by the NMC? Can they appeal? Why are we not seeing members of Jubilee who are affiliated to the Deputy President writing letters to NMC or petitioning those processes and saying, we are members who are registered bona fide members of this political party. The Deputy President is our deputy party leader. You will not throw him just like a dog that has been hung somewhere in a tree. Why are we not seeing the power and the voices of members?
Right.
It is because of ideologies like what Wakili is saying.
Okay.
People know that they will be used and dumped,
Well,
quite sadly.
Well, you speak of an ideal case scenario. Too bad the issue on the ground is quite different. Michael Agwanda, even as you add your voice on that particular issue, allow me to bring in the issue about the new BBI headache. Of course, we're talking about President Uhuru Kenyatta, who's a Jubilee Party leader. But Raila Odinga is also a partner in this particular BBI constitutional amendment bill. But there seems to be issues arising within Parliament, those joint committees in the National Assembly and Senate. Talk to us about this particular issue, how Parliament can actually amend issues brought about during public participation, which concluded last week. But it seems they're not bound to, according to Article 257, and that seems to be a bone of contention, a ceremonious role, quote unquote.
Jesse, is a little bit, we are seeing what is happening now within the political parties, that is Jubilee, ODM now, and UDA for that reason, all the affiliates of Jubilee Party and the affiliates of the Deputy President starting to play in Parliament. I am aware that parliamentarians are actually, in a place where they're saying we are not going to pass the BBI. Not necessarily because the BBI is a bad document, but because they have not received the CDF funds 100% as they were supposed to. It's now in the public gallery, and enough member of parliament are saying we've out of 134 million a year, we've only received about 34, 35 in the constituencies. And so they're demanding, they're arm-twisting the government and saying, just like the MCs arm-twisted the government and said, you've got to give us a 2 million car grant, that we're not going to pay for. And they got their wish. The parliamentarians are also saying, why do you want us to pass this document if you cannot submit, the money that we're entitled to in the CDF? And the government perhaps have not listened to them to that extent, and they're saying, well, until you do this, it's a barter game here. If you give us the money, we're going to pass this. And so you're seeing the joint committee, the legal joint committee, both in the Senate and in the National Assembly, reading from the script of parliamentarians who are going to pass this bill. And for that reason, they fear of if we present this, we're only having a limited time to have it discussed and passed, and we don't want that to happen until the government listens to the demands of the members of parliament. They fear that it might be shot down as soon as they present it to the House, the floor of the House, simply because of these wrangles that we are seeing here. And it's not just the ODM parliamentarians, it's not just the Jubilee parliamentarians, it's not just the affiliates of Deputy President parliamentarians, but it's across the board in Parliament that the members of Parliament are unhappy. But when it comes to a specific matter on the floor, and that is whether Parliament is able to change this document, hence the reason why they're supposed to do the public participation aspect of it, and then they are also limited as to whether they can change this or not. And that is a fundamental question that they're asking. This is a public-driven document, and Parliament cannot change it. And for that reason, we've had some members of Parliament, especially Honorable Celia, asking, why do you do public participation if you know very well that you are not going to change a comma on this document? It's a waste of our time, and therefore bring it to the floor. But they're also saying, look, it's still got to follow the parliamentary procedures so that it's heard and then it's passed. But the problem here is not the document. The problem here is the tumble of the parliamentarians that feel that what is right is not being given to them. I can tell you for free that we are also seeing a dissatisfaction from the ODM fraternity, saying that we've been shortchanged from this document. There seem to be so many constituencies given to Central Province and to other places, and places like Western, that are supposed to get almost equal as a result of the numbers and the population of voters there, are not getting what they're supposed to get. we are seeing members of parliament saying, IBC coming forth and saying, in terms of the allocation of, parliamentary, constituencies, it is our mandate. And many people are starting to voice their opinion as to the illegality of this. And you know what that might bring forth, Jesse, is if it continues like this, I guarantee you that as soon as parliament passes it, it will go to court. And if it goes to court, it's going to drag this process even longer. So I think Parliament is a little bit keen on ensuring that they do the right thing, but also in a selfish way.
Well, Danstan Omari, I can see the smile, Wakili. Perhaps as you explain that, talk to us about what Agwanda has just referred to, the arm-twisting tactics. Is this the case scenario? Because we've seen parliamentarians actually question the Committee of Experts on Constitutional Review on the role of Parliament. The issue seems to be around what they can do in terms of this BBI issue, in terms of amending issues brought up during public participation. Give us your take.
Thank you, Jesse. Agwanda is a good friend of mine. He gets it right, gets it wrong. He gets it exciting, he gets it motivational. So that's why I'm laughing and saying, Agwanda, when did Orengo become a senator from Mount Kenya region? When did Otienda Amolo become a member of parliament from the region that got more constituencies? When did Baba, the architect of the BBI, cease being a son of Ramogi and become a son of Mount Kenya? It is the reality dawning on him and them today. Why I'm so excited is that in this country, Jesse, and that is the point I raised about political parties not having ideologies, and everybody feels that's the right thing. That is a practical, on-the-ground vitu nihilo. Number two, when you look at the historical perspective to the BBI and what we are seeing, remember when Kibaki came, Kibaki left us with Vision 2030, a very vigorous economic blueprint that was leading this country out of the challenges that we are facing. What happened with the Vision 2030? It died. We created, unilaterally the president created what is called Agenda 4, which not anybody knows what that Agenda 4 is. What has happened with Agenda 4? It has gone to the drain the way it was planned to go. Then we have the president's legacy projects. Unilaterally, the president is driving his cabinet ministers and PSs to construct, using illegalities, for example, the NMS, bringing the military, bringing people not through the civil process. That is his legacy. Where is it? Is it likely to be there? We move away from that. We generate a new monster called the BBI. Everybody is galvanized. Every resources are put across. Kibicho releases money from the OP to people to move the process forward. Where is it now? It is dying in Parliament.
All right.
We now move to the last point I want to say. Yesterday, my president, I listened to my president on other media stations saying President Magufuli has taught us not to depend on loans from outside the country. A big sarcastic talk. We are in a country, and this is what I'm saying, where Kenyan citizens, and I agree with Osino, out of the 46 million Kenyans, only 2,000 politicians are shaping the destiny of this country for themselves. Me and you, citizens watching, we are alone. The political class will use our taxes. The MCAs were given 2 million shillings. Members of parliament want their cake. Everybody wants their cake. Where am I as Danstan Omari? Where am I as Mwachonda? Where am I as Mark from Kisumu? Where am I as Ole Kimani from Narok? We must stand as a nation and demand for accountability and transparency from the politicians.
Well, demanding for accountability is definitely key, and Osido, we had talked about that, but Wakili has definitely belabored on various points. I'll give you the last take on this particular matter as we put it to rest due to time, unfortunately, but we'll definitely continue with this discussion going forward. Osido, what's your final take on this briefly?
Kenyans, this is our country. We cannot leave this country to the political machinations of selfish individuals who want to drive their selfish agenda. We wake up every day to determine the destiny of this country. The question is, how are we involved in the governance and the leadership processes? Remember, we have a bigger role to play insofar as holding our leaders to account. We must wake up every day to, in the same spirit, the same zeal, the same zest, the same vigor that we are using to be able to put monies in our pockets. Let's ask the difficult questions that through the sovereign power that has been given to us through the preamble of our constitution, on the difficult questions around healthcare in this country, around debt margins in this country, around youth unemployment in this country, about corruption in this country, and ultimately how we put leaders into power through elections.
Okay.
Let's not sit. Let's watch them and hold them to account.
Well, taking control of the government one way or the other. Agwanda, 30 seconds, briefly, your final take on this issue.
Jubilee has to stop the wrangle within its force, because those wrangles are actually being experienced in the public gallery, and it's showing just how badly this country is being mismanaged. Secondly, I say this. As a country, I know Osido has said that we need to take the leadership of this country as, citizens of this country. I can only say this. The problem that this country has had with our political class is the political class seems to be left to people that we think are not very smart because of the murky water of nomination, murky water and battles within electioneering time. We must be able to get a better governance in terms of electoral processes in this country for us to see good leadership. If we still have the kind of fiasco and the machination that we are seeing within the IBC and producing the kind of leaders, some of the kind of leaders we're having in this country, we are still going to see a lot of this bad governance even in future.
Okay, it definitely points to the trust in the process as well. Gentlemen, allow us to end it at that particular point. Wakili, many thanks for your contribution. Of course, we were joined from our city center studios, Dunstan Omari, of course, advocate, lawyer, and also joined from Kisumu with Michael Agwanda, who's a governance expert, and right here in studio, Kevin Osido, governance expert. Gentlemen, many thanks for your time. I hope we get to deliberate on this particular issues, because it seems to be a game of wait and see, not just in the Jubilee Party, but also in Parliament, as they will not be tabling the second reading today. They ask for more time to consider views provided by the public. Many thanks for your input. We take a short break right now. A lot more on the other side. Enough about politics and policy matters.